Greetings, this is Anonymous. We are most displeased with the United Kingdom government. Despite our previous threat, the vision implanted victims are still not getting the help they need from the UK government. Since the United Kingdom government did not free the implanted John Duffy and the implanted English civilians, all 500 of them including 5 women, we have been forced to continue with our threat. Since the UK government did not comply with our demands, we will now release part 4 of John Duffy's whistle. We will continue to upload more evidence until the implanted UK citizens have all had the implant removed and are taken back home. The following evidence is from the whistleblower's attempt to expose the UK government establishment for depopulate implant and the establishment's attempt to stop John. This nightshade implant broadcasts what the eyes see and what the person is currently thinking or speaking, and also what the person hears. It also has a torture part to it which can cause maximum pain and even death on the victim wherever the victim is located. This nightshade implant is part of the Western establishment's agenda to depopulate and implant the whole world. It is not the RFID implant, but instead it is the nightshade implant which is the threat to us all. Enjoyed the expose on the vision implant part 4 of the whistle from Anonymous. We will upload more evidence soon. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
BBC sting against vision implant victim and whistleblower John Duffy. I was listening to a football match on the radio, when I heard some strange words used by the commentators. Sheik Young said something about someone wanting money, and I thought in response that I do not want any money for this story. I had thought this because an American whistleblower had already gotten the story to the media. Soon after, Sheik Young said the boy's not interested in the money. They also said something about winning it in Scotland. After I heard this, I came to the conclusion that the BBC were trying to get me to go to their headquarters to say what the government had done, but when I went there nothing happened, so I went back to give a BBC journalist a USB drive containing evidence several days later. They did not get back in touch. Because of that broadcast, I decided to record the next Celtic match on my SKY box that I was going to listen to in case it happened again, as I could not remember everything that they had said. The next match that I had listened to on the 24th of September, 2013 contained several keywords that were meant to be picked up by me. Earlier that morning I was going to buy cigarettes in ASDA, whilst in the queue I spotted a New Scientist magazine with the headline "Thought, as I have an illegal government implant in my brain that broadcasts my thoughts, I could not resist buying the magazine." There was a Private Eye magazine right next to the New Scientist magazine, and I was trying to remember, is that Ian Hislop's magazine? Later that night during the commentary I once again heard several keywords. Including in part 1 of the recording at 5 minutes and 10 seconds, Sheik Young started to talk about Private Eye magazine. Then again at 13 minutes and 49 seconds I heard psychological, and at 15 minutes and 6 seconds they started to talk about Jim Duffy, the ex-manager. This is also my family name and the name of my brother. In part 2 of the recording, it went into extra time, so I had to set the SKY box to record the rest of the match. I heard the saying, he hashed it up twice in a 30-minute period. While this is a normal football statement, it is unusual to hear it twice in a small time period. I had taped the SKY recording of part 1 onto my MP3 player and transferred it onto a USB drive for safekeeping, but for some idiotic reason I forgot to tape part 2 onto my MP3 player. I had also went back down to ASDA to take some photographic evidence of the 2 magazines, at the magazine stand, as well as buying the Private Eye magazine, so I would have 2 receipts. One from earlier in the day of the football radio broadcast, The New Scientist, that I already had, and then the other receipt from the following day, of the Private Eye magazine which I had just bought that day. I then went to London to try and get the story out because of a newspaper, The Guardian, and music radio station, Planet Rock, Sting. When I got back to Scotland, I then taped part 2 off the broadcast onto my MP3 player, but while listening to it again I only heard the saying he hashed it up once at 16 minutes and 34 seconds. He also said 10 minutes 3 times. This was the news media's code for assassinate, 10. My SKY box also now had an error in the TV guide. The mini TV screen was no longer working and said on it no signal is being received. This was a message from the security services letting me know that my SKY box was hacked. I then recorded the guide onto my video camera for safekeeping and for further evidence. While I was in London, the government ordered the security services to hack my SKY box and fix part 2 of the recording, and remove one of the hashed it up comments. They had this done because I was refusing to pay the TV license fee, while the BBC, because of the Director General Lord Patton and the BBC Trust and senior management, were not covering my story, and they were collaborating with the government to cover up this story, which is a violation of the BBC Charter. They are meant to be impartial, and also because it is unusual to hear that statement more than once in a short period of time. The fact that it happened in 2 different football matches is proof of an insidious criminal conspiracy involving the UK government, the NHS and UK establishment media including the BBC in an attempt to assassinate me, as they were hoping that I would say in a court of law that I was picking up messages from the radio, which is considered to be schizophrenic, because I was refusing to pay my license fee. As I have already been intentionally misdiagnosed with this illness, the government and the BBC Trust were trying to have me sectioned again, where the NHS would have assassinated me with a lethal dose of poison in an attempt to cover up this story, because an American NSA whistleblower had already gotten the story to an American journalist from Rio, who worked for the Guardian newspaper, but were prevented from covering it by the British establishment media, the Scott Trust, News International, Trinity Mirror, the BBC, and Sky. I also believe that the commentators were lied to about the nature of the broadcast. They thought they were testing or training a would-be agent to see if I would fall for a sting.
The money he had. Well off the radar. Can't have that, you know.
That one I have to take with me to my grave. Here lies Keith Jackson, he's off the radar.
Sports Sound Extra, Saturdays from 5:30 on BBC Radio Scotland.
That's good.
Yeah, listen out for the guys.
Richard,
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm delighted to hear Keith, and he's been great on Sports Sound Extra. Congratulations on that one into Coleman Balls and Private Eye for his a butter through knife comment.
Yes.
But actually, I have to say that Sports Sound and a few of our programmes are featured quite prominently on them. It used to be Coleman Balls, it's now Commentator Balls and Private Eye, which is a great compliment, of course.
Well, absolutely. Yes, I do. I noticed people were picking up on Keith's butter through knife faux pas. We should also say, while we're talking about things out with the game, happy birthday to Mr. Murdo McLeod, who's alongside. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I last said happy birthday to you on air, Murdo, but there you go.
Enough it was.
Strangely enough, exactly 12 months ago.
Exactly, yes.
Great thing about birthday, you know, the more you have them, the longer you tend to live.
How very deep.
That's me.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Charles. Anyway, you've been.
Gibbons coming on.
Is that significant, Kenny?
It is very significant.
Is it?
Yes.
Because of the slow?
Yep.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it's significant. You threw Spence. You clearly don't know it as the dressing room.
It used to be. There's a chance of it. It used to be, I think, 8 foot or 9 foot from one end to the other. I think. Richard, as I recall,
It's quite steep,
Yeah, it's a fair step. I mean, if you sit here and you look at it, you can see a definite slope. But
it's psychological too.
Yeah.
Rich, general consensus here is it was Chris Hitchton.
Okay, there's just one person you need to convince, and that's whoever was sending through the stats for the video printers around the world. That's right.
I think it might have been 4-4 because
we were there that night. I remember doing that thing. Jim Duffy, I seem to recall, was with us that night. It was an incredible.
It was 2-2 or 4-4, but it went to extra time and penalties.
Celtic is a ball over the top. The goalkeeper's 20 yards out. Van Dijk came forward. The goalkeeper just screwed the ball out, and Celtic have a throw-in just near the corner flag, maybe 10 yards from the corner flag. Over comes Adam Matthews to take that. In fact, Kitch Commons takes it first and gives it to him, and then they make an absolute hash of that between them. And Dougie Emery says, thanks very much, Al, that throw-in. What an absolute comedy of errors that was.
That was silly, wasn't it? Even felt the first throw-in was a foul throw, and then when he knocked it back, he's knocked it straight out the pitch.
5 minutes of the second period have come and gone for Morton and Celtic. They have 10 minutes to go. Celtic 10 minutes to find League Cup salvation. 10 minutes for Morton to find League Cup glory. Ambrose, diagonal ball into the box, played away.
BBC Sting Part 2 Ajax game, Sting exposed by journalists. On the 22nd of October, 2013, I was intending to listen to Celtic play Ajax, and because of the previous 2 matches I had to record it again. Once again I picked up 2 statements which were meant for me. Both of them were at the start of the match, the first at 6 minutes and 33 seconds off the recording, 44 seconds into the match. Peter Grant said take the Sting out of the game. Then at 7 minutes and 9 seconds, 1 minute and 18 seconds into the match, Murdo McLeod also said take the Sting out of the start. The journalists also mentioned at the start of the recording that the Ajax strip contained pink trimmings. Was this a mention of the rape charity Tickled Pink? The journalists at BBC Scotland have realised what was going on with the previous matches that I had listened to, as I had by then given them a USB drive containing evidence, and they were now trying to help me prove that the government were trying to sting me during the previous 2 games, or the journalists were lied to about myself, and was I smeared as Arapist to the BBC journalists by the BBC management in order to cover up the whistle I was planning on making with the BBC about Edward Snowden's leak and myself.
Very much so. Maybe the biggest game of this of the competition, certainly so far for Celtic. They must win this, I think. I know Neil Lennon talks about not losing. I think it's more than that. This stadium is about to erupt as the teams come out the tunnel. And if there were ever any doubt, and I'm sure they weren't, then the Celtic players and indeed the Ajax players will realise that the nation, Europe, indeed the world is watching them tonight. My goodness, there's a way to the far side, Richard. They've unveiled that. The class of 67, of course, Billy McNeil's winning the Lisbon Lions out, but the class of 67 meant it in so many ways, and a class performance is what we need from Celtic tonight. The place has gone absolutely nuts now.
It sure has. The one disappointment about tonight is the Ajax strip. It's not the classic strip, of course, the one that we've all come to know over years. It's a change strip which is predominant. It looks like black from here with pink trimmings.
Goes East End, green and white hoop jerseys, white shorts, green and white socks, Ajax all in black with pink flashes, and we are underway, and it's back with Lustig on this near side. The officials are Croatian. The referee, 36-year-old Ivan Bebek, he's been here before when Braga visited in qualifying 3 years back. He was also in charge of Aberdeen's UEFA Cup defeat at Atletico Madrid in 2007 and was in the middle of a 4-6-0 Scotland formation that lost 1-0 to the Czechs in Prague. It's immediately out of play on the far side for an Ajax throw, which will be taken by Van Rijn, the right back for Ajax. Peter Grant How does Celtic approach the early stages of this?
I thought they've started, you can tell with the kick-off, they've tried to play on their front foot, they're pushing up against them, because they know Ajax will want to play, they'll be comfortable in possession. You can see them try to take the sting out of the game, and this is the time that Celtic have got to pick their moments when to spring. I'm sure they'll be able to work, that's what they've been working on.
Yeah, it does look like Stokes will be the more advanced between he and Pukki to start off with in any case, as that's taken out of defence by Veltman, moving it up towards the edge of the centre circle for Sereno. He loses possession and it's back with Ambrose just inside his own half, turning it back to Lustig, and he goes to the Dutchman Van Dijk. Murdo McLeod, how's this going to pan out?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Celtic. They're lining up the way we were talking about there. It's comfortable. They're trying to get a hold of the ball, and Ajax just trying to slow the game down a wee bit and just take the sting out the start from Celtic.
It is absolutely rocking inside the stadium just now. There's two players down, and the ball will be knocked out of play on this near side because of an injury. Georgios Samaras went down, so too.
The Guardian sting against vision implant and whistleblower John Duffy. The Guardian newspaper editor, Alan Rusbridger, then started to smear me with coincidental articles in his newspaper, because I had already developed Tourette's syndrome of the mind, tic disorder numbers, from the first broadcast. The new smear campaign had made my illness much worse, and I was being psychologically tortured once again. This was done in an attempt to force me to commit suicide. Towards the end of October, the Guardian newspaper attempted another sting by using the radio station and articles in the Guardian newspaper. They were attempting to trick me into going down to London and to stay in a cottage to get the story out, but the real reason was to kill me on Halloween and make me a missing person. This was done because the Guardian newspaper is owned by the Scott Trust, who are also the establishment, and I was trying to bring down the UK government as well as the British establishment media, and also because I was saying that the establishment had plans to depopulate and implant the population. I have photographic screenshots of articles from this sting. Vision implant victim John Duffy goes to Dublin for whistle with Irish media. I then left Scotland for Ireland on the 30th of November, 2013. While travelling to Donegal on a coach through Northern Ireland, I heard on the radio that the Irish people knew about the show. While staying in Ahatel, Station House Hotel, in Letterkenny, the locals and the IRA as well as the Irish security services helped me by giving me advice and keeping me alive while I was attempting to travel to Dublin to try and get the story out. On the journey to Dublin, the Irish security services informed me in a coincidental way that the mobile phone app was placed in the public domain, as I had thought that the show was just in Scotland, like the first show. I had developed a code system from the first show in 2006 so that I could get help. The codes were 1, no, 2, yes, 3, trust, 4, Ireland or media, 5, money, 6, Glasgow, 7, me, 8, great or hate, 9, police, 10, assassinate, 11, me, 15, MI5, 16, MI6. That code system was used by everyone to communicate with me in 2006 as well as in 2013. The Irish people also started to say that scran to me as a code to let me know that they were listening to the show. I was reading books downloaded onto my Kindle so that the Irish Security Services, Defence Forces Directorate of Intelligence, could communicate with me in code via clickers that were hidden in my hotel room, and they were also trying to keep me alive long enough to get to an Irish politician, who I knew was supportive of whistleblowers, as well as trying the Irish media so that I could get the history out and go to an Irish hospital to get the operation to remove the implant and save my life. The Irish security services let me know in code that there was a camera in my hotel room so that I could get to sleep without fear of being poisoned, as I had already been poisoned in a London hotel. I gave my evidence to Amnesty International in Ireland, as I could not send letters in the UK without them being intercepted by the UK government. They said that they would send them to Amnesty International in the UK. I had also sent some documents to a German newspaper, Der Spiegel. Amnesty International were giving me advice in coincidental news articles to help me to expose the implant to the world. I have photographic evidence of my email contact with Amnesty International. On the 9th of December, 2013, I went to see RTE, Ireland's main TV station, to make an appointment with a journalist at around 11 o'clock. The receptionist said the journalist was out on a story but that they would phone back. When I got back to my hotel, the Maple Hotel, I then went on to the news websites. I then discovered that a woman was attacked in her hotel room around about the same time as I was going to see RTE. Her hotel, Isaac's Hostel on Frenchman's Lane, was a 2-minute walk away from my hotel. The woman was attacked on floor number 3 in room number 311. These numbers are code numbers. The number 3 is my code for trust, and the number 11 is one of my code numbers for myself. David Cameron and William Hague and the UK establishment media, including the BBC, in an act of criminal conspiracy, had paid a foreign national to attack her with a knife in order to send Sage to the Irish media not to interview me and cover this story. I had then decided to go back to Scotland, as I was not prepared to put any more Irish people at risk from the British government and establishment, as I was the one with the death sentence. I then intended to get this story out by going to court, either with a famous law firm in England, as I can't get a Scottish law firm because of the fear factor, or by representing myself in a court of law. When I was staying in a hotel, Letterkenny Court Hotel, on the night of the 10th of December, 2013 in Donegal, a stopover back to Scotland, I checked the Irish news websites again and found out that on the morning of the 10th of December, 2013 at 3:30 a.m., 4 gunshots were fired into the door of a hotel, Sunnybank Hotel, in Dublin. I knew this was a warning by the British government to me not mention what had happened in Ireland, as my code for Ireland is 4 and my code for trust is 3, and an MI6 agent had already spoken in code. He had said 14 printouts, meaning no Ireland printout, in an internet cafe in Dublin while I was printing a revised statement on the morning of the 10/12/2013 to include the Dublin knife attack. I have evidence of my stay in all 3 hotels in Ireland. While waiting for the coach to Scotland in Letterkenny in Donegal on the 11th of December, 2013, a foreign national was also waiting for the coach. He started to speak to me in code. No one speaks to me directly because of the fact that the implant broadcasts the version of Tourette's that I developed, which also describes what I see. The foreign national also kept on checking his phone and then started to say things. The foreign national was saying things and showing me pictures in an attempt to make me smear myself. He was also threatening to kill me in a coincidental way. He also asked if I had any cards while we were on the coach, which I took as a reference to the establishment's game. The British establishment had promised to pay him to kill me. I knew this because the foreign national did not have much money to spend, and I knew that he was receiving instructions on his mobile phone. On the coach, I was communicating with the Irish radio, RTE Radio 2, via the implant to let them know my suspicions, and they were agreeing with me. There were only 6 passengers on the coach. At Port in Larne, the port security took all the luggage off the bus. When your luggage is taken from the bus, you have to get off for a customs check. Only the foreign national did not get off. It is also unusual for all of the luggage to be taken off the coach, as they usually only take some of the luggage off the coach. When the coach arrived at the Port Kenryan in Scotland, the police took the foreign national and off the coach to check our IDs. The foreign national did not have any ID or luggage. The police then refused to allow him to continue to travel on the coach. The police also took details from me about where I was, my passport details, and which hotel I had stayed in when I was in Dublin on a written form, which I had to fill in and sign. A policewoman then spoke to me in code. She said, "That's grand. to let me know that they were listening to the show and that they also had the same suspicions. The police saved my life so that I could try to get this story out in Britain. I have evidence from the police proving that I was stopped and searched at the port in Scotland.
Greetings. That was another expose by the whistleblower John Duffy and Anonymous. If our demands are not met and the civilians are not taken home, then we Anonymous will upload more evidence of Project Omega and depopulate implant to the whole world. This nightshade implant is the true threat that Anonymous is now concerned with. We will upload more video evidence soon. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.